What's going on, everybody? Dustin King here. Let's talk about scrapes. So scrapes are a big part of my tactic. I like finding them because generally when you find scrapes, you find mature bucks or in deer in general, and you know they're in that area. It's better than just putting the camera on a trail and hoping that one walks by. A scrape is a central hub for some reason. Just like if you go out to a restaurant, you can see a lot of people that you might know. Them scrapes, the same thing. I like to see all the deer, so it's a central hub for me to be able to find them. So I want to describe what I've done. I've kind of done a little one scrape study, if you want to call it that, this year. The scrape is in a bottom where you have pine thicket, swamp, and then you got what is a travel corridor through there. And the way this land is set up, there's a holly tree on 4 foot of elevation, and a lot of overstory, which means scent just comes to there. That 4 foot elevation is the highest point in there, therefore I believe all the scent, the deer made this scrape there to really collect everything that's going on in there. And it seems to be the favorite spot, and that's the only conclusion I can come up with. So to dive off into what I've done, let's look at this graph over here. So you can see the orange is going to be 57 days. The bucks is number 1 there. Now, 57 total days of activation. 43 of these by the bucks were daylight visits. All right, very important to note. Daylight visits are not classified as hitting the scrape, but at least coming by. 15 were at nighttime. Your ledger's down here at the bottom. If you get a little lost, you can check it out. Again, 57 total days from December 14th until the end of season, February 10th. The does, 22 times in daylight, 9 times at nighttime for 57 total days. To me, that is pretty remarkable and telling on itself of what I've seen with 2 boss buck feeders, slap full of feed all the time, of the deer, mature deer, not going to those. I ain't gonna say hardly, not at all, but hardly. The daylight activity around those feeders was very minimal, and the few bucks that were going around them was mostly nighttime and 3.5-year-old deer. Now I want to say this scrape study was done with every buck and doe that came by. And this is important because if you look at the long game and you got a private piece of land, you want to be in the long game. You don't just want to say, oh, I ain't got but 2.5-year-olds here, or this could be for public, that matter. I've only got these little old bucks right here. Why do I want to keep hunting here? Put it in the back of your mind, write it down, put a marker on Onyx or something. You can be in the long game with historical data, just like this scrape has showed me. This one buck I know has hit it 2 years in a row and been there at the exact same time. He does not live on our property. He comes and visits this scrape when it's time for rut. We called him Wolverine. He was a massive, massive 8-point. I tried to put a correlation of why he was visiting, time frame, moon phase. Barometric pressure was generally above 30. Only one time it was 29.77. He visited a total of 9 times from December 14th until the end of season. The only correlation I got when I feel like the rut was real hot and heavy, I was on the rig for this entire month of January at work, so unfortunately I wasn't there. But it seemed like he was hitting it every 24 hours roughly, some of around midnight. And I say that, but I also want you to know, just because this camera's got a 40-degree field of view, I've sat there and I've watched bucks come by 60 yards just downwind of this thing. So there's no need in just relying on that camera on that and scrape, because they're not going to go there every time. They're going to at least be in that area. That's the important factor to remember when you're doing this kind of stuff, hunting these scrapes. For me, I have to know that at least a buck is there. I'm not really worried about if he's on that camera once a day. If he's at least there one time a week, that's good enough for me, because I'm going to try and find trails where he's at. I've seen it, and I'm just kind of putting this information out there. Maybe it'll help some of y'all out. We recently just done a local podcast that's just getting started, Outcast Podcast. Kind of revealed some of this information on there, but I wanted to put this video out there for myself so y'all could see. And I'm not no deer biologist by no means, but I pay attention to details because if you're gonna have a puzzle, you need some pieces. You got to put the pieces together in order to have a puzzle, and that goes with the habitat, the water that I like to hunt around. To me, habitat thick, water. There's always going to be some deer around water, river systems, creek systems. And then these scrapes. This is what I like to do. Put this stuff together and see what's going on. We talked about feeding on that podcast. The feeders just proved it once again this year. Every deer is different. They're not going to be at the feeder all the time. I've got 3 cameras set up. I'll show you some pictures. There was within a 100-yard area. One on a feeder, one on a trail halfway down, and then one on another trail. Mature daylight activity on that last trail, 100 yards from that feeder. And some of these bucks never were coming to this feeder. So that just goes to show you right there. And I don't know it all. I'm just, giving this information out there because I think it's neat. It's going to help me, and hopefully it'll help y'all kind of tune in the game if you decide to go that route. Some people like sitting and shooting houses and hunting over food plots. That's fine. Do you? I kind of like finding them and kind of bouncing around on these trails and seeing what all I can gather intel wise, and then come up with a plan to try to harvest a mature buck or deer in general. It's fun. A lot of time and effort goes into it, but I enjoy it. And I hope y'all enjoyed this video as well. If you learned something or got any questions, feel free to hit me up. I don't know it all. I'll try to help you out as much as I can. But I thoroughly enjoyed doing this, going through all this data, trying to figure something out. But the main thing to focus on is be in that general area. Don't rely on that camera. It's not good to rely on the cameras. I got friends that do it. And also be in the long game. I want to reiterate that because there's 2-year-old bucks hitting that scrape. Don't forget about that spot. They will be back. Sometimes deer come and hit it one time and you'll never see them again. That's not on your property. If they are, maybe you can branch out and find them if you got a big enough property. But I've seen it with just 160 acres. One buck shows up, bam, makes his loop, gone again. Never to be seen again. Maybe he got harvested by a neighbor. Maybe he crossed the highway that night just out of something bumping him from his side to where he's normally at, made a little loop and rolled out. Who knows? They are animals, and you can't really predict them, but what you can do is learn a little bit and increase your odds of success. And I hope that's what this video is teaching y'all, because it sure has taught me a whole lot along the way. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up on the video. Hopefully there'll be more coming to y'all, kind of stuff like this. Maybe y'all can learn from with the setups that we like to do. We sure appreciate it, and thank you.